Hello and welcome to Empowerment. I'm Kelly Whetstone. Thank you for joining me today. It is 10 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesday, July 8th, 2025. Happy July. Happy July, the hottest month of the year. Yep, I'm still convincing myself that I like summer, but it's been a firecracker here. It really has. It's been in the 90s, and for a pretty straight run. So happy July, and I hope that July keeps on moving as quickly as the rest of the year has moved. But I am very, very happy, aside from hot weather, very happy to be back live with you today, and even happier that C.A. Brooks is joining me for our July 2025 Meeting of the Minds. As you know, if you listen to this show, we really do always have a great discussion, and you are invited to be part of it. So please join us in the chat room. Just go to 12radio.com and click chat. And please feel free to comment or ask questions in the chat. We may or may not have time for readings today. We'll see how the conversation goes. And we just follow our intuition on that one. So we'll see, but you can ask a question in the chat and we'll be happy to answer, whether it's online or, on the air or after. If you would like a reading, however, from us, you can find both of us on 12listen.com. I'm available every day, usually mid to later morning Pacific into the evening. But if you happen to stop by and don't see me, or if I'm on another call, just schedule a call, put in a callback request. I'm notified immediately via text, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. This is a big week on 12Listen. Thursday is the full moon, and Saturday is 1-2 day. And we will be celebrating with reduced rates on calls and chats. And on 1-2 day, we have our favorite day of the month, and we have random reduced prices that will change throughout the day for each advisor. We're all at random prices, and they all change throughout the day. So it's a really fun energy. And that's on calls and chats. But there are special prices on time-based sessions, email-based services, and other services. So it's a lively week this week on 12Listen, and I will be online every day, and I will have a time-based session at a very special price for 1-2 day. If you would like to be notified of our specials, just go to 12listen.com and sign up for 1-2 promotions. And I just want to say thanks again for being here today. Thank you for listening. However, and whenever you do, there is programming 24/7 on 12 Radio, and you can find archives of all the shows in the on-demand section at 12radio.com. 12 Radio is a great source of information, inspiration, and support. So I encourage you to take advantage. I really do. Learn something new. Listen to a host that you don't typically listen to. You never know. You never know. So it's there, it's always there. And again, I do encourage you to take advantage. And I want to say thank you to Serena for producing the show today and for all that she does for us on 12 Radio, which is everything. So thanks, Serena. I appreciate you. I'm sure I speak for all of us. We all appreciate you. And of course, as you know, I'm always glad to have CA with me, CA Brooks on the show with me. If you're not acquainted with CA, she is a 12Listen advisor, a clairvoyant astrologer, animal communicator. She's an avid student of A Course in Miracles, among many other things. She writes the week ahead section of the Power Peak, Mark Husson's weekly newsletter. She hosts Everyday Astrology here on 12 Radio, which immediately precedes Empowerment live every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific. And she has podcasts of her Course in Miracles show, Why Wait for Heaven, available in the on-demand section at 12radio.com. Our monthly visit at the second Tuesday of the month, if it works. If not, we find another day. But our meeting of the minds is where we can just talk. I start with a topic and we kind of go from there. But the thing is that we can bring everything and anything to the table. You know, spirituality, which is my deal and my favorite deal, my passion, spirituality and mysticism, astrology, tarot, feng shui, anything and everything. are welcome. And I think we are just kind of in this space. My intention for this space and the space that I set for our show together is just a space of permission, to just be the instruments, through which flows, through which fun and enjoyment and love flow. So, we could talk for days. So this is always a show that I look forward to, and it's always fun. So I'll have CA join me in just a couple of minutes while I set up the topic. So actually, while I was waiting for the topic to show itself or to unfold, I had an idea of what I wanted to talk about. But of course, when every time I just make myself available for more information, amazing what happens, when you do that. Information comes because we kind of get out of the way. But I was listening to one of Alan Watts' television programs from the early 1960s. And they're black and white. You can see them on YouTube or I think you can probably see him on alanwatts.org too, his specific website. But he was giving a talk that was called Nothing Makes Sense, and that's the point. And one of the things he talked about, and you'll know as I talk further why this was just absolutely brilliant to listen to this yesterday afternoon. He said orderliness of life. The orderliness of life. In other words, everything having to be in order, doing things a certain way all the time. Is the life, if it's taken too far, becomes monotony. Through an excess of order, our lives begin to lose vitality. We need a kind of disorder to give life to order. We need a kind of nonsense in order to make things meaningful. We need chaos as an essential element of life. So, as you probably know, if you listen to my show or if you talk to me on One Two Listen, my son, daughter-in-law, and 3 grandchildren came to visit 2 weeks ago and stayed with me for 10 days. And actually, they stayed 2 nights in our cabin. We went to our family reunion the last Saturday of June, and they stayed in our cabin up there, and I stayed in my cousin's guest house, which was fantastic. Um, but so here are 3 children, 8, 5, and 4. And it is just an energy all unto itself. Their group consciousness, not just the kids, but kids and parents, it is just an interesting and fun thing to behold. But, here's this big energy, big chaotic energy of this family coming to stay with us. And, Grace and I, my little dog and I, live a really quiet, orderly life. And having the 5 of them here, especially the kids, turned it upside down, just upside down, but in a really wonderful, chaotic, but wonderful way. And I absolutely loved the time that we had together. And I think, well, I know it's because I changed my mindset about it, for one thing. In the past, I would try to get ahead of, anticipate what might happen, what they would need. I'd buy way more food for them than they needed and or would use. So I ended up giving it away to, my neighbors or whoever, my nephew for his kids. But, trying to anticipate that, trying to make sure all the bases are covered with them is completely impossible. It is just completely impossible. And really and truly, it's an impossible thing anytime, in any circumstance. But but it's just everything is in flux. Everything is in constant motion with them because, again, 3 little kids are unpredictable, completely unpredictable. So my method of operation this visit and I'm happy to say that I observed myself doing it, was non-resistance, just non-resistance. Whatever went on, whenever plans changed, I was able to just be detached and neutral. And that made for a really fun time because I could have, quote unquote, have the chaos rather than fight it. And things just flowed. Things just flowed. We ended up going to my brother and sister-in-law's house 4 different evenings because they have a swimming pool. And those little kids are little ticking time bombs by the end of the day. And they just needed to release energy. And boy, swimming in that pool, they all love water. They're all pretty good swimmers, even the littlest. And it did the trick. It really did the trick. But, that wasn't something that I thought would happen. I thought we could sit outside and have conversations, which we did when the kids went to bed. But, but anyway, it was unpredictable, and that was okay. That was okay. So, this whole vacation was really, um, a reset for me. I needed a break. I just needed a break from my routine. You get to a place where you kind of start losing your enthusiasm for things. I'm speaking personally, I was. So I really needed just the shakeup in my energy, in the house, in my day to day. So even though I did work several hours, well, a couple days during the time they were here, the weekend in the mountains where we went for our family reunion was total time off. And because I intended it to be, but also because they don't have Wi-Fi up there. They have no Wi-Fi. So it's like, oh, not even any argument within myself for that. No Wi-Fi. And staying with my cousin was another wonderful experience. So here's two different terrific experiences, completely different, but were very healing for me. Having my kids and my son and my grandchildren here, and then the time that I spent with my cousin, her 3 sons, she has 4 children, her 3 sons and 2 of their girlfriends, along with her husband, were who I spent time with when I was there, and I spent Friday and Saturday night, and we left Sunday. But they are just super easy, lovely people to be around. I mean, just easy. And being with them was like breathing fresh air. I mean, it was so, and I can't explain it. I can't explain exactly why, but it you've probably been someplace with people or with a person where you were totally comfortable. You were totally comfortable and you could just be yourself and talk and have conversations, and I came back feeling just revitalized from that weekend. So it was all really wonderful, and it was the break that I needed, and I appreciate it very much. But I wanna share one another point from the video, and this might be the talking point for CA and I. Alan Watts was talking about purpose, and not purpose in the sense of, "My life purpose is this," but how we look at purpose here, and he's talking about people in the West, um, Western part of the world. And he said, well, let me just give the example he gave. He gave the example of going into town for the purpose of shopping for groceries. And shopping for groceries validated the trip into town. Like things have to have a purpose to justify why we do them so that we can justify why we do them. Like it isn't good enough if we just want to go into town and wander around and see what's happening, because that's not productive. That doesn't have a purpose. And I have to say, that really hit home for me. And I'm still pondering it. It's like, I never thought of that, but I could relate to that because I do it, and I've done it probably all my adult life, and I don't know why, but now that I'm conscious of it, it's something I'm gonna pay attention to and ponder and maybe take into meditation. And what he said, he talked about actually purpose and meaning. But that was his example of his take, so to speak, on purpose. But he said purposelessness and meaninglessness are negative terms for people in the West because we're driven by productivity, by it's just how we are, in this Western society, you know, being productive, being efficient, and I'm speaking from me. But in the East, he said, in Taoism and Buddhism, they're positive statements. Purposelessness, meaninglessness are positive concepts because they describe not pushing against the flow of nature and the flow of life, but being in it, flowing with it. Because nature doesn't have a purpose. It's like life is life. Life is what lives us. And it just is. It just is. It's source. It's life. It's the Tao. It just is. So purposelessness is flowing with it. And if you think about it, that's the purpose and meaning of life, right? To be in it and flow with it, not to fight it. So anyway, I just thought that was pretty interesting. And on that note, I want to say welcome to CA and thank you for being with me today.
Hey, thank you, Kelly. And I got such a kick out of the notes that you were sending your clients because I have taken classes from you. So I'm on your client list.
Uh-huh.
And so I always get those. And when I heard those kids were there, I thought, oh my God, because Kelly's got this, very comfortable but beautiful house. And there she
Oh, thank
is
you.
with Grace. And I thought, oh my God. And here descends these three rambunctious, intelligent, clever, provocative kids.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
partially I could just see Grace. I mean, and I'm projecting here, but sometimes when something happens, Tucker will literally just look over at me and almost roll his eyes and go, "What was
Exactly.
that?" And I thought, "Oh my God, that's exactly what Grace is doing right now, going, hey, what's going on?" Although I bet you she really liked those kids and had a good time with them,
Oh yeah.
right?
She's just fine. She goes with the flow. At first it's like, oh my gosh, because Maisie wants to pick her up, you know,
Uh-huh.
and Grace weighs like 12 pounds. And
Uh-huh.
if you pick her up, she likes to be on your shoulder. She loves it when like an adult will pick her up
Yes,
and
we'll
just
pick her up.
put her
Yeah.
up, hold her up like her head's at your shoulder height. And Maisie can't do that. So she's just got her by the middle and Grace is like like, holy crap,
Right,
what's
right.
going on?
Yeah, yeah.
Make it stop.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. But anyway, I so enjoyed that, and I was living vicariously through you and thinking, "Oh my God, that must just be a riot over there for those days that they were with you." So I'm glad you got that opportunity. But going back to
Yes.
what you're talking about, I know
Mhm.
we don't often talk astrology on this show, but I want to
Oh, please.
kind of
No,
I
bring
want to
it.
tie it into the idea Uranus, which is the planet that literally breaks the rules. It's the one that says we need some chaos, we need some disorder,
Uh-huh.
because astrologically speaking, Saturn, what before Uranus was identified, Saturn was the outer perimeter of our solar system. I
Mhm.
mean, if you took a class, you wrote a book, it was always Saturn is the outer perimeter, the
Mm.
boundary, the structure. It became the planet astrologically that represented those things: discipline, structure, order. This is
Mhm.
this is the outer boundary. Well, then Uranus comes along because people invented, or I can't remember his name, but he invented the telescope. And there was a new way to look at it. And Uranus became the outlier. It became this planet that had a weird orbit. It truly does. It does have a really strange orbit.
Huh.
It doesn't behave like the other planets. And all
Mm.
of a sudden it's out there. It broke all the rules. And I love it because I could imagine a world where they had to rewrite the science books.
Mhm.
Everything that had to do with the solar system, we had to rewrite it. Well, Uranus is in the news and will be for a while now, mostly because it only changes signs every 7 years. Well,
Mhm.
it changed on Monday, yesterday, and
Oh,
it's going to be in Gemini, the sign of the twins, the sign of communication. It's going to be there until May of 2033.
wow.
I mean, so, we're going to talk about it for a while because relatively this is going to be new energy for a while, especially because it will retrograde back into Taurus for a few months. And then by April of next year, it's going to be like free floating, it's like a free for all of Uranus in Gemini. But
Mhm.
everything that you were saying is the benefit of Uranus coming in because it says,
Cool.
okay, Saturn, enough of the habits and the rigid boundaries. And this is how we have to do it. And this is the order. You get up at 8 o'clock, you drink your coffee, you go for a walk or whatever it is.
Mhm.
Uranus just goes, well, what if? What if?
Mhm.
And it changes the order. I mean, and it can appear as chaos. And oftentimes it does because anything that's out of our familiar zone or
It's
out of
chaotic.
our yeah, feels chaotic. Oh my God. But on the other hand, there again, is it really chaos? Or is it the way of the world? Is it the
Uh,
way of nature? Or
yeah.
is it the way things happen? So Uranus, psychologically, if a person is very Uranian, which are a number of them, and usually they're inventors, by the way, those are the
Oh, that
people
makes
who are
sense.
always, always thinking outside the box. You know? I mean, in
Mhm.
fact, I had a quote I was going to use on my show today and I didn't. Do you know who Temple Grandin is?
No.
Okay, she is a woman that I'm trying to think what year she was born, 1947. But
Okay.
she is severely autistic. And
Mm.
so much so that when she was born, she had so many communication. She was, I'm not going to say the typical autistic child because I'm not sure there's a typical for that,
Right.
but she was so diminished in her ability to be like other kids. The doctors literally told her parents, you need to institutionalize her.
Mhm.
Well, her parents weren't going to have anything to do with that. And she has since become like an expert in a number of fields, certainly in a field of autism. But she broke all kinds of ground because she became an expert at basically advising livestock operations about the humane treatment of cows and
Wow.
of other livestock because she as a person who thought differently, she knew what it felt like to be in a world where you're thinking in pictures, not English words.
Ah.
And she literally, I mean, I've known about her now for I think at least 20 years. I mean, I first heard of her in Colorado. And in fact,
Mm.
when she was at one of the state fairs or something like that. So I heard her speak, which is interesting because she is so pragmatic in her speech, in the way she
Wow.
talks. But she's
Wow.
written many, many, many books. But the quote that I was going to use is this one. She says, in an ideal world, the scientist should find a method to prevent the most severe forms of autism, but allow the milder forms to survive. After all, the really social people did not invent the first stone spear. It was probably invented by a person with Asperger's syndrome who chipped away at rocks while the other people socialized around the campfire. Without
Wow.
autism traits, we might still be living in caves. And
Interesting.
I know, and I love that. I mean, it does sound just like her. Well, and of course, like I said, she's written lots of books, and that's in her book that's called Thinking in Pictures. But that's the idea. She's going, you know what, guys? You think everything has to be normal or it all has to be in this subscribed little circle. But the
Yeah.
truth is, It's those people who aren't thinking like the rest of you. You're all sitting there roasting marshmallows or doing whatever around the campfire. It's somebody else who's thinking up crazy things that change the world.
Mhm.
The Edisons of the world, the Einsteins of the world. And
Yeah.
when you think about how many people who really have been inventors or free thinkers, etc., they probably all had some level of being on the spectrum.
Yeah.
And just simply because they didn't think like other people. Now, whether you want to consider that a medical diagnosis or just they don't think like other people. Well,
Mm-mm.
that's what Uranus introduces to us. Is it's time to think outside the box. And
Mm.
also, I like to think of Uranus, it's the planet that says, think outside the box. What are you talking about? There are no boxes.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uranus, it wants to break through the boundaries, the orderliness, or what we think of as orderliness. It wants to break through those things and say, you don't have to destroy it. Because, in fact, even though they're very contrary, I love the idea of Saturn and Uranus together because we need boundaries. I mean, if
Mhm.
our lives were totally chaotic, then, what would really happen?
Mhm.
But we don't need, I mean, we need Uranus to balance the orderliness of Saturn, and we
Mhm.
need Saturn to balance the chaos of Uranus.
Mhm.
But I was also thinking just what you said, it's like I'm a big person on purpose. And purpose is, by the way, a very Saturn word. But what
Mm.
I would offer is that we need to be very Uranian, or we need to be different about what we think purpose is. Because if purpose is only making money, or if
Mhm.
purpose is making sure I have this many calories a day and this many grams of protein, that can get really rigid. But if our
Yeah.
purpose, and see, and I would offer this to you, I think it's true. Your purpose is to strengthen your spiritual connection every single day.
Mhm.
That's your purpose. So how do you measure that? It's not the same as being productive. I mean, that's the thing. Being
Right.
purposeful is not the same as being productive.
Right.
It's not the
Right.
same. And in Western society, though, it is.
Mhm.
In fact, I
Mhm.
always kind of go back to this example because I think it's funny. I have a sister who loves, loves, loves daytime soap operas, or at least she used to. I don't know if she still does or not. But when I was studying astrology, I was actually going, talking about productive, I was getting my master's in business, but in all my free time, I was doing astrology. So I wasn't
Mm.
watching any TV. I wasn't, in fact, I had no social life. All I was doing is studying astrology. And so I was
Mhm.
kind of, trying to get her interested in it. I was showing her these charts. She goes, "Why are you wasting your time doing that?"
Oh.
And this is a person who she was watching maybe 4 or 5 hours of soap operas a day.
Wow.
And she said to me, "Why are you wasting your time doing this?" And that was so, so meaningful to me because I
Profound.
realized, well, it was
Yeah.
profound because in my mind, you'd have to tie me to a chair to watch a daytime soap opera.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
literally, you would have to tie me to a chair. That would be a form of violence and torture.
I agree.
And yet to her, you've got all these books and you're sitting up here making all these charts and studying this. Why are you wasting your time? And that goes back to, though, you can't know what somebody else's purpose is. And see,
No.
maybe her purpose, or maybe the soap operas was her way to escape, her way to
Mhm.
relax, her way to do whatever. But you can't judge either one as good or bad. But
No.
she thought, and probably still does, I'm just totally ridiculous with astrology. It's just
Mhm.
a ridiculous waste of time. But once again, it's like it depends on the purpose. And I feel like you, spirituality is very, very important to me. And
Mhm.
so more and more and more, when I look at my life, of course I have goals. There are things that, I
Yeah.
want to pay the mortgage. I want to, have a good time or enjoy
Mhm.
be productive and or just enjoy my time, relax. But more than that, I literally am really trying to work towards a state where every single thing is an opportunity to learn a spiritual lesson or to feel more in alignment with the spiritual being that I believe I am.
Mhm.
And if that's my overall purpose, then I get less hung up by productivity goals that don't work out
Right.
because they're secondary. They're secondary.
Right.
And so even though I'm not sure people would agree with me in terms of that's a difference between East and West, I feel like I want to be purposeful, but I
Mhm.
want my purpose to be aligned with my spiritual center.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
have to have all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's like, I just want every moment to know that no matter how upset I get or how crazy I get, and I do,
Mhm.
that I can quickly stop and just go, oops, you got all caught up in this illusion, or you got all caught up in this.
Mhm.
You believed for a minute that this was really important or that this was really serious. And is
Right.
it, to just come back to that place? And so I guess I'm defending the idea of purpose, but I think the purpose can be something other than, productivity as Western, would
Mhm.
describe it. Because I mean, I'm same thing. I mean, I have that issue with several members of my family that a productive day or a useful day is you get up and you do this and you go play that game and then you do that and then you have lunch with your friends and then I mean it's all activity.
Mhm.
It's all activity, but I
Mhm.
recognize, yeah, those things can be a part, but that's not my goal anymore. That's not my purpose. My purpose is that alignment
Oh,
and to
yeah.
try to feel, so being in that flow, not even so much with nature as much as being in the flow, the spiritual flow, and knowing that when I get out of it, that all I have to do is stop and change my mind and come back.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's my purpose. And
Yeah.
and there's a real easy measure. Do I feel peace of mind?
Mhm.
Because if I don't, I've gotten off track. And it's, in some ways it's as simple as that. And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean, by the way, that I don't analyze everything to death, because I do. Because
Yeah.
it's just kind of what I do. But you know
Right.
what? Just coming to that more and more and more. That's the only thing that really, really ultimately matters.
Mhm.
Can I
I
come
agree.
back to the spiritual base?
Well,
You
and
know?
being sensitive enough to, it's like for me, um, because that's my purpose too. That's
Yes,
it.
I believe
That's
it
all there is.
is.
That's all there
Yeah.
is in my book. But I liked what he was saying, which is again his
Mhm.
take on it that, you know, that we like he said, going to town to buy groceries gave validity to going to town.
Yes.
Whereas if you just went to wander around, it's non-productive. It's not
Yep.
good. It's judging one as good and the other as being lazy or
Yes.
whatever. And that was
Absolutely.
an interesting take. I mean, it was just a really interesting take on things. Um, and just the whole because I do that to myself. Don't you do that to yourself?
I do it all the
What are you
time, and
doing?
I
You're sitting
even
here doing nothing. You can't do that.
yes.
That's not productive.
Yes.
That's yeah. It's
Well,
crazy.
and even to the point of thinking, I mean, I take it a step further, like, what if somebody calls and says, "What are you doing?" I mean, which they do, like, I mean, because my family knows that I work a lot, and so they'll call and they'll go, "Hey, what are you doing? Do you have a minute?"
Mhm.
And I almost feel compelled to say that I'm doing something productive instead of going, "No, just sitting here looking out the window."
Yeah,
It's and I'm like, They didn't ask me for a defense. They didn't ask me for an excuse. They're just asking if I'm available. Why do I
right,
think I have to defend,
right.
you know? I mean, why
Justify your existence.
well, right, but
I
you're
mean,
right,
that's
because
really what it is.
yes, because one habit I got into when I finally, like, left the 9 to 5 world, I wanted to be productive. So it's like, okay, you work in the morning, you take a lunch break, and then you work in the afternoon. And I
Mhm.
kind of set up these, okay, this is how much time you can take off for lunch. And so I kind of got into this habit of, but even lunch had to be okay, you need to take some steps, you need to get some exercise, you need to accomplish all these things during your lunch break.
Right.
And if I finally just said, you know what, I just want to sit here, I just
Yeah.
want to eat my lunch and maybe watch an episode of NCIS or something. But I felt
Yeah.
like I had to justify it even in my mind. Like, it's
Right.
okay to turn on the TV. It's okay to just relax for a few minutes. But
Mhm.
in my mind, I had to call it lunch.
Yeah.
I couldn't just go, you know what? Eat your sandwich and then do whatever you want for the next 30 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever it was. And I would feel guilty if I took longer than that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, Kelly, I mean, the words coming out of my mouth may say a little bit something different, but I
Mhm.
agree with exactly what you said. It really resonated with me, but especially with the astrology of knowing that Uranus is coming along and just going, rethink your order.
Mhm.
You need to switch things up every once in a while. You need those breakthroughs. You need to know when the orderliness has just gotten too rigid,
Yeah.
the habitual behavior or the routines. You need to know when that's true.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
when you feel that, because you will feel it because it's your life, right?
Mhm.
Um, then do something different or
Mhm.
just try and do something different. I mean,
Mhm.
my cousins are in the mountains. They're not going anywhere. They're 2
Yeah.
hours away. Anytime I want, if their guest room's available, I can take a
You
drive.
could go up there, yeah.
Yeah. And
And you
and
took Grace, I assume.
no, I didn't. I had
Oh, you
my
didn't?
friend Becky that I went to ICI with came and picked her up right before we left, which was perfect, and took her home with
Oh,
her.
nice.
Yeah, and she's funny, she's a hairdresser and she does stuff, and she took Grace over Christmas, so she had her for 10 days, and I mean, Grace saw more action in those 10 days with Becky than she has in 10 years with me, because
Yeah.
she took her to at that time, her aunt, who's now deceased, lived in an assisted living facility, and she took her there, and everybody flipped out when she walked in with
Mhm.
this little white dog. And, um, and she it was over Christmas, and she cooked Christmas dinner, and Grace sat on her aunt's laps for Christmas dinner, and just I mean, she went to the shop with her, to the hair salon with her, and, I mean, she just took her everywhere, and
Oh, that's
so
cool.
she just loves her. She goes, "If you ever need her to be taken care of, you call me first, because 'cause I'll do it." 'Cause she's just a good girl, she's a fun
Oh,
little girl.
yes. Yes.
And that makes me feel good,
Yes.
that other people love her that much, and they do. I mean, Scott, Kristen's cousin, I asked him one time if he'd be willing to take her overnight, and he goes, "Are you kidding? I'd love to." So I told her she had a sleepover with Scott.
Yeah.
He picked her up, and he bought her a new leash, and he bought her a little toy, and it's like it was hilarious. But that
That is
makes me
so
feel
cool.
good because I know I have people because in the past, my mom would keep her,
Mhm.
or, Shannon would be home, and so she'd stay home. So I feel really, really blessed to have, a couple of people that I know love her and will take good care of her.
Oh, yeah, that's like it means the world.
Oh, it
One of my
does.
one of my brothers took Tucker the other night just for a couple of hours because he has a couple of dogs. And I said, I really think he needs a play date. He just needs to do something. And so he said, sure, I'll take him. But what always amuses me is when somebody takes Tucker, he never even turns around. He just like hops in the car. And I'm like, goodbye, hello. And I mean, I mean, I know he loves me and he spends most of his moments with me. I mean, here
Mhm,
again, he'll sit. He like right now he's just laying on my office floor sleeping.
mhm.
But boy, when somebody wants to take him somewhere, he's gone. He doesn't even look back
Yep,
to see where I am or
yep.
what's if I'm coming. It doesn't matter. It's like, whoop, I'm on a leash and I'm on an adventure.
Exactly. I need to find out what this is about. So
Yep. But I'm glad he's that way because if he was kind of clingy and, fought it, that would be harder. But I just, it amuses me so much. He must have, some Uranus in him for sure.
well, that's really a trait of, like, Bichon and Bichon relative
Hmm.
dogs.
Oh,
It's kind of like I remember reading about that when I got Claire, forever ago. Um, it just said if you want a dog that's just your dog, it's not a Bichon.
ah,
Because they love people and they
hmm,
love which is great. But I mean, if there's 3 of us sitting in a room, like in my living room, she's on my lap. And what's really funny is, I've got those 2 recliners in there,
hmm.
by the TV, and I still sit on the same one. I don't sit on Shannon's recliner, as silly as that sounds. So, anybody that sits in my chair, Grace is right there on top of
Oh,
them or on top of the chair because it's her chair too. Because we sit
hmm,
and watch TV at night and she tucks in next to me. And
hmm.
it's so funny. The minute anybody sits there, she's bam in their lap,
Yeah,
whether they like it or not. I have a picture of Kristen and Quinn kind of cuddled up under a blanket in that chair. And Grace is literally laying on the arm of the
yes,
chair to
yes,
be on that chair with them. It's very, very funny.
yeah.
But oh no, she has an opportunity to go and do something different. She's on it. Yeah, and doesn't look back at me either. So I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, and Tucker, what's also funny is it hasn't been that long, maybe a year ago, I did get a lazy boy recliner chair because
Mhm.
I'd never had anything like that. And I thought, I just need something really, really comfortable. One
Mhm.
place where I can just, so I'm not necessarily reading a book, I can just be comfortable. So I
Yeah.
got this chair and I kind of got it for him too, because when I'm in other people's houses and they've got big arms on chairs, he always wants to be there, just like you said. He wants to
Mhm.
be up on the arm. And so
Mhm.
I got this chair. Well, he's kind of taking it over though.
Yeah.
Like if I'm in the kitchen cooking or, I'm not in there, I look over and he's in that chair.
Yeah.
I mean, like right in the middle of it, like, and if I come in, he doesn't get up, for
No.
me to get in the chair.
No.
If I want to sit in, I have to literally get him to get out. He's not going to. And sometimes, in fact, it's funny, I'll just sit some other place and he just lets me. It's like, yep, I got my chair.
Thanks for not crowding me.
Yeah, yeah, she can sit over there on the hard couch or whatever it is.
Yeah, I'll walk in there and it's like, "Okay, time to watch TV." Or Grace will be sitting in the chair and I'll go, "Move it over, sister. You gotta share it with
Yeah,
me. I'm not gonna." She looks put out, when I move her over, but
yeah.
it's funny. They're funny. And she's in that chair in the morning often because she can look out into the backyard.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Tucker likes the places where he can look out the windows,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm. And
But
watch for
the thing
bunnies.
about but the thing well, and coyotes,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
He weighs about he kind of ranges between 22 and 24 pounds. So that's the
Oh,
other thing.
he's bigger.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, yeah. He's a little guy to me because I'm used to dogs that are 50 or
he's a big
60
dog.
pounds, huskies and border collies. But he's little, but he's not, you know.
Yeah.
He's not that. In fact, there was a coyote in the yard the other night, and a lot of times I just put him on a leash so I can grab the leash really quick.
Yep.
But he wasn't on a leash, and there's a coyote, and he's going after it. And
Oh,
so I'm
geez.
screaming at him, and he won't come. So I finally get him by the collar. And, and I literally, he was so riled up, I didn't even think I could pick him up,
Yeah.
because he's heavy
Yeah.
and he's all excited, let me go, but it had
Mhm.
already jumped over the fence. So, but yeah, he's just after it.
Mhm.
He thinks he's a really big boy and he's
Mhm.
not.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, these
Big in
dogs, they don't
spirit.
have any problem thinking outside the lines, do they? Or coloring outside the lines or
No.
breaking up a routine. They're
Being
okay with it.
spontaneous.
Yeah, they don't need
Exactly.
the routine to make their lives happy.
Exactly.
to be in the
Exactly.
moment.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, and that's why Grace goes out on a leash here in the yard because, well, I've told you, she just kamikazes herself into a fence or a
Yep.
tree or whatever, chasing a
Yep.
rabbit, and it's like,
Yep.
I'm not putting up with that again this year.
Yep.
So we go for long walks in the morning,
Mhm.
and that is pretty good. And now that she's 10, so she goes out in the afternoon and then right before bed to do her business, and that's good enough. So
Yeah.
that works. It works.
Well, and the
Jared's
kamikaze
like,
is a good description because that's exactly what Tucker does. In fact, I wish I could get this on video because when he sees a rabbit or a coyote, he runs so fast that his
mhm.
back legs can't keep up. And literally he's kind of half flying and half dragging. I mean, just because
Oh, funny.
he's going, I don't know, 15 miles an hour or something, but his back legs literally can't keep up.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I'm just like, "Oh my god, I wish I could get that on video." But but it's always scary. In the moment, I'd never be
Yeah.
able to get it on video because it's so darn scary. Because he's
Yeah.
projecting himself, you
Mhm.
know, into as
Mhm.
far in the yard as he can get, as fast as he can.
Mhm.
Ooh, I think
Oh,
the other
yeah.
night though, I think he actually kind of scared that coyote. I'm not
Good.
sure. I don't know if it was me screaming or Tucker, but yeah, that coyote jumped over the fence.
It was probably the combination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
ooh, ooh,
Well,
yeah.
I wanna tell you a funny story about the kids. They each have an iPad, but Jared, and Kristen limit their time on the iPads.
Mhm.
But in the morning, like in the morning, in order for Jared and Kristen to get a little sleep, a little extra sleep, the kids would sit on their iPads or they'd watch TV in my living room, and so that they got a little extra sleep. Their parents got a little extra sleep.
Right.
So it was path of least resistance. But I certainly wasn't going to go. And it's because they were out and available to them.
Mhm.
When but Jared would put them away. He'd hide them someplace in the house, and he would show me where he was putting them, but I wasn't going to go get them for the kids. It's like there's plenty to do. You can watch a movie on Netflix. You can do other things. You don't have to be on your iPad. But one morning, they were they were staging a protest because they wanted their iPads. So in unison, they're going, "I want my iPad. I want my iPad," over and over and over. And Jared looks at him and goes, "That is exactly not the way to get them, and knock
Mhm.
it off. Because if you think you're going to force me into giving you your iPads, think again." So then they got busy doing other things, watching a movie or whatever. And then pretty soon, a little while later, Bo goes, it kind of dawned on him that he still didn't have his iPad. So he starts again. "I want my iPad. I want my iPad." Nobody chimed in. And he goes, and I'm listening to him do this. I'm not watching him. He goes, "Quinn, Quinn." And she didn't say anything. He goes, "Quinn, talk to me. Talk to me. I'm your sister." I was laughing so hard. It was just hilarious. And I told Kristen that, and she goes, "Yeah, he just doesn't have the sister, brother, male, female
Yeah.
thing. He gets confused." And Jared goes, "One time he walked up to me and told me he was my uncle."
Well,
But
we're related anyway.
oh, yeah, it was so funny. And Jared said he was the other morning, that he was kinda twilighting, he wasn't quite awake, and he goes, and Bo comes up to me, and he puts his hand on my cheek, and he goes, "Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Do you know where my iPad is?"
Oh my gosh.
It was just hilarious. They're just
Well,
they're funny.
yeah,
Mhm.
tell me something. What do they do on the iPads? I know
He
that's
pl
a naive question, but I don't know. What are they doing on them?
he plays games.
Games.
He
Okay.
plays games because he's a little thinker, he plays games, and, Maisie does too, and Quinn Quinn listens to other stuff, but he mainly plays games and does stuff. So,
Mhm.
and that just that's how he thinks. He's a thinker.
Yeah. So that's kind of the addictive part of it is playing games.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Well, and I think and just having no, I think you're right with that. And just being able to have something that you're doing, just
Yeah.
what you want to do.
Well, because I was thinking watching a movie, a lot of people would go, no more TV. But it's like, but watching a movie is good alternative to an iPad. That's why I wondered, well, what are they doing?
Mhm.
So they're not watching videos or,
Mm-mm.
I kind of thought that's probably what they were doing on the iPad. But
No, no, and it's all pretty much educational stuff that they have access to.
hmm
So that's what they're doing. But it's just, Jared's like, let's go do something. Let's walk out to the
yes,
park. The park's 2 blocks away. Let's go
yes.
play. Let's go on the swings. And so that's what he's always trying to do, which is why we spent, 4 evenings at my brother's house so they could swim. Because they
hmm
really are just like outer kegs. You're
Oh,
just
and
waiting
you know
for
what?
one of them to go off.
That is so wonderful. I'm glad you had access to the pool. Is it a
Oh,
heated
yeah.
pool?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, because I
Yeah.
was going to say in Colorado, I can imagine could be a little chilly in the evening.
Oh, no. It's like it's perfect temperature, and they
Oh,
have
yeah.
a hot tub, and it's just really beautiful out in their yard, so and those kids just go for it, and boy,
They
they
love it. That
yeah,
is so wonderful.
yep, and then they fall asleep on a chair out there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's and then we get 'em home, and Bo goes, "Can we go home now? Can we please go home
I'm
now?"
tired. I'm tired. Yep. They probably exhausted themselves.
Oh, they did, and, it's just but it was so much fun, it was really fun having him and just realizing how what people they are, being around their personalities and how different their
hmm
personalities are. So,
hmm
that was good. That was really good, and Maisie's just Maisie. She's just a
Yep.
ball of life,
Yes.
big ball of
Well,
life.
that was a very wonderful break in your schedule.
It was.
So
It really was.
Thanks for sharing it with us. Because we all
Oh,
need
yeah.
that. That's it. We need to balance out that Saturn and Uranus, and we need to, not be so hard on ourselves, I guess. So let's quit
Right.
making defensive statements or excuses for just wanting to relax or look
Yeah.
out the window or wander through the mall or whatever it is.
Exactly, exactly. Well, that's what I do on Tuesdays. I call them tuna fish Tuesdays because I make tuna salad and eat it and look through the catalogs, the millions of catalogs that I get in the
Yes.
mail. Just for,
Yes.
I take an hour and do that. And that's the only week I do it. But again, it's a reward, because I had my
hmm
show.
Yep. Well, and
I
speaking of
have
which,
to
you
earn it. So silly.
That's right. But we've got 1 minute to close the show,
Oh,
Kelly,
yep.
so that
Oh,
you
yep.
can get to your Tuna Fish Tuesday
I
and
know. I'm so
catalogs.
happy.
Thank you so
Um,
much for letting me be on the show. And of course,
of
yes,
course.
people can find me
Always.
on one2listen.com, and I will be available on 12 day for sure.
Perfect, perfect. Well, thanks everyone for being here. You've been listening to Empowerment. I'm Kelly Whetstone. We're here on 12 Radio where we're changing the way that you listen to the world. Thanks for being here. Have a very blessed week, and please stay tuned for Katie Weaver. Bye bye.